Welcome back to Not So Grand Garage. Today we're out in the shop working on a familiar Ranger. It's back out here just to be serviced and a few other things, but the owner's complaining about a pretty substantial oil leak. I've already climbed underneath it and everything from front to back is soaked in oil. And it's left some pretty good puddles underneath it overnight, so we're gonna have to track that down. So I'm gonna show you how to do it. In a situation like this, where everything is already soaked in oil, it's going to be really hard to pinpoint where that oil is coming from, even if it's dripping off things, because in this case, it's dripping off of everything underneath the truck. So, went down and picked up some fluorescent dye. This is AC Delco brand. There's a bunch of other brands out there who do the same thing. Just be sure that it's rated for oil use, transmission fluid use, so on and so forth. But yeah, bottle of UV dye and a UV pen light. This should make tracking this oil leak down a little bit easier. I've already added this to the oil, so I'm gonna fire this thing up, let it run for a few minutes, and get underneath it and see if anything glows. Truck has been running for a good bit now, but I'm gonna go on and show you exactly what we're gonna be looking for. I've got a little bit of leftover of this dye. It's not much, but I'm gonna dump it out into this oil here. And this is what we're gonna be looking for. As you notice, that little bit of dye that was in there, just a few drops, you're going to be able to see wherever your leak's coming from. So I went on and shut the lights off in the shop. I'm going to close this door too, get it nice and dark in here so we can really see what's going on. We're going to start up top and work our way down. Well, we've got it nice and dark in here. Got my black light on, or UV light. We're going to start up here in the engine bay and see if anything pops positive. So far we're looking fairly good up here. Go around to the passenger side. Being extra careful checking around this valve cover gasket, because I just replaced this valve cover gasket, so I want to make sure it's not leaking. I don't see anything going on there. I don't see anything up top anywhere. Nothing's popping off, so I know you can't really see me, but we're gonna go on and slide underneath and see what we can see down there. Oh yeah, I'm seeing some glowing already, but I'm gonna have to get this truck up in the air a little bit so we can get a good look. Okay, got the truck up on the quick jacks. So now we're gonna go through and see if we can find out where our leak's coming from. Got a power steering leak, which this truck's had for quite some time. He doesn't want fixed yet. Well, let's come back here and see what we've got going on. Oh. We've got some dripping coming out there. And Looks like it's all around the oil pan flange. I can't see if it's coming from any higher than that. So I'm gonna slide out and get back behind the front tires and see what's back here. Okay, it looks like we've got some glowing up on top of the bell housing, all around the bell housing, all around the oil pan, and we've got some drips coming off of the oil pan back where the bell housing meets. I'm back on the passenger side, and all the way around the oil pan flange is lighting up, and there's nothing above it that I can see. So I'm gonna go through, and you probably can't see me right now, that's okay. I'm gonna go through and check all these oil pan bolts, make sure none of them are loose. But I got a feeling we're gonna be pulling the oil pan off and resealing it. And I'm pretty certain the motor has to be lifted at minimum to do it. So I'll have to talk to the owner about it and see what he wants to do. So after crawling all over this thing, what I can see the best is that the majority of the dye is around the oil pan flange and all over the oil pressure sender unit. So I'm going to start out by replacing the oil pressure sender. It's most likely original. I did pick up a Motorcraft one because I kind of had a thought that that's what was leaking before ever doing this. So I've already got one sitting here for it. I'm going to change it out, and probably, if this rain quits, get it outside and pressure wash everything off real good, and take it for a good long drive, or let it run for half an hour or so after the fact and see if anything else pops positive for dye. I did notice the back driver's side corner of the head gasket seemed to have a little bit of dye around it where the head meets the block. It's possible that it's got a little bit of a leak there. Valve cover gasket looks clean. So yeah, the majority of the oil is surrounding the oil pan and dripping down the driver's side of the block around the oil pressure sender unit. So that's where we're going to start. It's kind of tight getting in there, so I probably won't video it or anything like that. But yeah, this UV dye stuff, it works great for tracking down leaks. I use it all the time in AC systems. It really helps pinpoint a small leak like that. I hadn't used it with oil or transmission fluid or anything like that before, so this was new for me, but it worked. It did the trick. It helped me track it down. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna get it changing this. Okay, not sure if you'll be able to see it or not, but I'm gonna work this camera up in here where that sender is. Right there. With a little white cap on it. It's tucked way up in here above all of the fuel lines and everything else that I jammed out of the way. Hopefully they don't start leaking. But yeah, not gonna lie, that was a pain. And here is the old one, soaked in oil. Definitely has been leaking. Hopefully that's the majority of our oil leak. So now I'm going to get this thing down off the lift, and well, actually I'll probably start it up just to make sure this oil pressure sender isn't leaking, make sure I got it tight enough. It's kind of a pain to get up in there, but I think we're good on that, but I'm gonna double check anyways. and then get it off the lift, get it outside, and see if I can hose everything off. And yeah, we'll take it for a drive, or I'll probably actually just let it run for a little bit and then check it over again with the UV light and see how we look. Well, got it running, checked it over. I'm not seeing any drips or anything off that new sending unit. So I'm gonna get it down off of the lift here and hose it down with degreaser, get it outside, wash it off, let it dry, and I'll probably bring it back in here and let it run a little while longer and see if we pop positive with that dye anymore, and see if we're getting any dripping, any puddling like we were before. I think that is the majority of our oil leak, because the whole side of the block underneath that sender was glowing under UV light, and everything is soaked around that sender down to the oil pan. I know the oil pan is leaking, but I don't think it was the majority of it, and I doubt the owner of this truck's going to want to fix that just yet. More than likely, it's going to need a clutch in the near future, and we can probably do all that at the same time. I'm pretty sure the motor's got to at least come up a little bit, if not come out of the truck to fix it. So, not really looking forward to that, but it is what it is. So, I'm gonna get this cleaned up and check it over, and we'll go from there. Well, it decided to cut loose and absolutely pour down rain, but I've got stuff to do, and it needs to get done. But anyways, got everything pressure washed off, clean the engine bay up, pressure washed everything underneath, transmission, bottom of the motor, oil pan, all the cross members stuff, got all the oil off of them. But yeah, it's gonna sit out here to dry off, and that's gonna be kind of hard to do with it raining. So this will probably have to wait until tomorrow when the rain is supposed to clear out. I can pull it back in the shop, let it run for a little while, and check it over again for leaks. I think I got the majority of it taken care of, so we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, I think for the time being, I'm gonna call it here. If you got any comments, questions, what have you, drop them in the comments section below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We appreciate you watching.